blessings. We know, Lord, that in these difficult times that your loving hands are with all of us all the time. And we just ask you to bless all of those here, all these entrepreneurs here on today's webinar. We ask you to bless their businesses, bless their families, bless their employees, Lord, to just send your tremendous blessings on them now as we speak. And as we go through the program today, Lord, we ask for you to give us the insight of the Holy Spirit, to give us wisdom and right judgment. So how do we take this information to make our businesses flourish for the greater glory of God? And we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Good to see everyone here. Here we are, as you can see from the photo in our kickoff slide here. I guess we've done enough to get all wet, right? And so now we're going to find our direction and finish up the journey today. So let's kick off just some quick administrative. I think our panel is a little bit different than it was yesterday. So I don't think you can raise a hand, but you could do other things, like maybe a clap or applaud or a smiley face. Can everybody, let's make sure that works. Can everyone just go ahead and put something up, just so we know you're here and you can use the panel there.
Yes.
See, oh, there are hands. Okay, good.
Yes,
go ahead.
Exactly. We can raise hands.
Yes. So can everyone go ahead and put a hand up? Let's go ahead and just make sure we're working. And there we go. Brent, Melina, Nicole, Rhea, Roy, can you all able to get a hand up? I want to make sure that later on when you have a question, we have the ability to know you're there, know you have the question.
We got Roy and Brent clapping, so that's a good sign. Clapping already.
Oh, nice. I don't see the I don't see the clapping. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, it shows up over there. I see. Okay, got it. Nice, nice. Okay, we can put hands down. Thanks, everyone. I want to make sure you're there. So let's talk. We did a lot yesterday. We covered a lot of material, and we have a lot more today. And let's talk about how this is going to go. So I'd like to begin by reflecting on what happened between when we parted ways yesterday and us joining again today. After that, we will go into a little bit more on recurring revenue. And then we're going to talk a little bit about crisis management. I know that normally we wouldn't have crisis management as part of a workshop on thriving sustainably and on your business model. But I think with the particular situation we have here today in the world, it's probably, I think, good to talk about that. And we have some pointers on that as well. We're going to talk a little bit about cash management, because that's important no matter how you arrive at, no matter what business model you arrive at. And then we'll finish up the day with talking about goals, action plans, and so that you can leave out of this workshop with something ready to go implement and act on straight away. So that's the hope. As much value and fun as we have here, it's not for all that much if you don't take it and go live it beyond here. So that's the really important part. So let's begin, and let's talk about yesterday. What happened yesterday? How did it go? And particularly, what happened? How did it go since you left? You were supposed to go think about this. You were supposed to go talk with your spouse, your business partners, your management teams. Who can share? How did that go? You put a hand up, please. So no hands yet. Did anyone talk with their business partner or our management team? Did anyone reflect on this? Brent, what about you?
Yeah, Madonna.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the hands up, so I just did a hand up. a couple of things. One, I spoke to my accountant.
Yes.
And the idea, so we just started to talk around bundling. I like that boss model that you shared.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. A particular context is I am doing some higher education, some studies. I'm doing my doctorate, but it speaks directly to my business and fine-tuning my model and the range of offerings, so that the conversations yesterday around the value-added proposition. Now, Laddie had worked with me for 2 years. And I think we've got that almost maybe about 95% correct. But in doing the higher education, because I need to position the organization to add higher value products and services. So I had to put myself through a course of study. And in talking to my professor just before I joined you around how intervention that in organizations, and we were talking about how do we embed, well, the model is called joyful leadership conversations. How do we begin to embed that in the organizations? So I've started the conversations with key people, the accountant and my professor, so that I fine tune my course of study. And the what is interesting, this university combines combines business with academia and theology. So I'm framing and getting a nice blend so that we can embed those type of what we call my model is called a joyful leadership conversation. We want to embed that in the organization. So based on some of the things you shared, I do have to return to the drawing board around bundling some of the offerings, looking at what has sold well, but given the new normal of, I think what they want. Oh, I also spoke to a client today as to pricing, and is there an expectation that pricing would be reduced because we're delivering it in an online platform?
Right.
And she said no. She said no. So I've started the conversations around pricing, bundling, and delivery modes and so on. So thank you.
Very good. Thanks so much for sharing. That's great. And that's what we hope. We hope the conversations here, the material here spurs inspiration, spurs you to really rethink these things. And you're right.
I would add, David, specifically to Madonna's comment about the leadership program. A lot of you might want to share with Madonna the Veritas leadership model, the 2-pager about how do you embed that, because it's, we started off with about purpose and driving that ultimate purpose throughout the organization. And if you are trying to create the intersection of faith and business and bring all of that in, look, you are speaking my language, and it's awesome when it works well. And we have some concepts that Lottie might want to share with you, and be glad to speak to you about that further if you like.
Excellent. Yes, and I think we heard you saying you worked with Lottie for 2 years on working on your what was it, your vision or your offering, and I think yes, and I think the value proposition. That was the word you used, and absolutely, I think it speaks to the fact that we're never there. We're always getting better. We're getting stronger. We're refining. I mean, we at Emerge Dynamics, at least every 6 months, we sit down and say, maybe we need to fine tune this. How have we been doing? And we'll lay out a mission and a vision, and it sounds crystal clear and amazing. And then we'll go try to live it. And then we'll realize after living it for a few months that it's pretty good, but there's some things we're not living well, or some things that maybe we need to tweak, right? So it's a constant refinement, constant improvement. So it's great to hear. Absolutely.
Brent didn't have his hand up, but I saw a clap or something a while back, so I didn't know if that was an attempt to do a hands up. So Brent, did you have any comments?
Yes. After yesterday's session, I spent some time speaking to my wife, and I really give God thanks for this conference and for the opportunity. What it led to, it led to me redefining or refining, sorry, my value proposition. And when I did exercise 5, I was able to pinpoint aspects of my business that I wasn't maximizing upon. So it was really a remarkable and timely session.
Fantastic. And Brent, in just a minute, we're going to ask about that. People who change their customer value proposition or their strategy map. So yeah, maybe we can dive a little bit more into that in a second. That'd be great. Who else?
David, I know Patrice wasn't here a few minutes ago when you asked the question. The question is that what type of reflections have we done since yesterday? Which of us have been able to do reflections with our spouses, with our partners, and so on? And I know I did speak with Patrice, and she told me she and her husband were actually meeting based on the session of yesterday. Right. So, Patrice, would you want to share? By the way, Patrice, business is a photo studio. So I'm sure you didn't know that.
Perfect.
Yes. So, Patrice, do you have any reflections to share or any thing coming out of your meeting yesterday?
Hi, yes, one sec.
Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone.
Hi, Patrice.
Yeah, I didn't get to speak to my husband at length, but I had a restless night because of the meeting. One of the things that my aha moment was really I just can't do this on my own, You said something about do you have a job or is it a business, And I've been trying to do everything myself for various reasons, I have a photo studio, we do photo, video, and print. But it's getting to a point now where I really need to bring in other photographers on board. And just that's the only way I'm going to grow. But putting these systems in place is my challenge right now. Remote systems for contracted employees or finding the right photographer who can do it like me. Those kinds of mental hurdles I have to go over. But I'm at that point now where I realize I do need to bring in a team that can support me to grow the way that the potential that we have. I know everything about the business technically.
Yes.
Technical wise, and I think I just need to teach, to teach someone else, so that I can focus on other key aspects like my vision and
Right.
how we can go about with marketing and those kinds of strategic issues that can help us take to the next level. So yeah, that was where I was mentally at after our meeting yesterday.
Patrice, thanks so much for sharing. That's wonderful to hear. And I know you said it was a restless night. I don't like to hear that it was a restless night, but sometimes we need to wrestle with change, right? And sometimes good things come from that. So, well, hopefully, as we go on with our day today, we can maybe hit on some of those things specifically that you were thinking about. That'd be great. Who else? Let's hear from one more person. Who else was reflecting
I know
sharing,
Catherine
talking.
is reflecting.
Hi, Catherine. Eric just voluntold you.
Hello.
Hello.
Normal space, so just making it comfortable, taking in everything. Um, I will remain with what I shared last night, where I know I have some refining and work to do with the value proposition. I wrote it, I tried to write it over, but it was like, why is this sounding so much? I'm still babbling, but let me give it a shot and share with you all so you all can give me some constructive feedback. Right, but because I was sharing that, the category of customers for us are both from a consumer direct product to retail point of view, and also from a wholesaler distribution aspect. I decided to look at the area of the wholesaler and distributor because when I did exercise 5, I realized that is where most of the value lies, and the magnitude in which turnover happens in that category. So I just rewrote for our wholesalers, we at Bees provide frozen dessert products. Am I leaving out anything here? That are made with quality ingredients and real fruits. Maintaining processes to ensure a homemade style consistency. We also ensure that we also try to ensure we maintain bottom line margins, timely servicing, promotions, and merchandising of our products. Unlike other competitors who offers irregular servicing and consistency. So that's where I reached so far in looking at fine tuning, bringing out those differentiating factors, those unique points where distribution is concerned. I think I do have a lot of work there to fine tune and get it sounding smoother. But before I did not zero in like this, where that particular target market is concerned, I think we were lost in the space of, one product. And yeah, I understand we have different customer type, but looking at that value proposition for that wholesale distribution aspect, I think that's where, the opportunities are for growth, because we would have seen it during COVID when all retail stores had to close down. We are still operating with limited capacity because we don't have any seating where persons could come in. It's all about takeaway. We had to focus on the supermarket because we were termed essential because we were providing food products to the supermarkets. So we still had that window of opportunity to come out during COVID. And we saw the potential of, fine tuning and staying in touch with the customer, understanding what they want. Because when persons could not go to retail places to buy, they were all going into the supermarket. So it just showed us a huge opportunity there where we really have to improve, where that distribution, being in touch with that key stakeholder, where most persons are doing their buying and stuff now, because people changed buying during that time when all kids are out, children are not back out to school. They're buying a lot of snacks, home foods, and ice cream was one of those items that were high up on the list. So, so it just gave me more opportunity to look at that area of the business much more closer to see how we can really ensure that we are efficient in that particular.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine. And how long did it take you to come up with all of that? Did you do that during our session yesterday, or did you come up with that after we finished yesterday?
What I wrote here?
Yes.
That I scribbled it while we were on the session yesterday, and I just looked at it a little further upon reflection.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Catherine, I will say one of the things that came to my mind while you were talking yesterday, and I've had the same experience in one of the businesses that I ran, which was a pharmaceutical business. And the challenge was who's your customer? Because we had pharmaceuticals that were ultimately helping patient lives. And to us, we had to make sure that that was ultimately our customer, that we wrapped ourselves around. The distribution channel, how we got it to that customer is somewhat secondary. Yes, they are your customers per se from a financial perspective, but I think it's always important to remember who really is the end consumer of our products and services, because that the other is a mechanism to deliver, but we have to keep ourselves focused on the ultimate customer. And so I think it's very, very important. You still need to make the distinctions.
Yes.
Because you have to make the distribution channels that you select happy. But we had to pivot as a pharmaceutical company from mostly going through wholesale distribution to direct to consumer. We created our own pharmacy because of the nature of the products and the fact that things got lost in transition between the doctor and the patient and the ultimate availability of that product through that distribution channel. And so we just said, look, if we are going to serve our patients and serve them well, then we have to make sure that they are served the best possibly, that they're getting the best product at the best price, most convenient, with the most information, to make sure that they understand why it is that they're taking that product. So I would just encourage you, as you're continue to grapple with that try to bifurcate the distribution channel from the ultimate customer. So
yeah, and why I zero in there as well is the supermarkets owners, they were calling, because what they wanted at that point in time, and even now, they want their shelves filled, right? Mm-hmm. The consumer, yes, I have lost my mind where they are concerned or focus on them, but the consumer at that point in time, or this new way of buying, consumers were going heavily into the supermarket. So we had to ensure, yes, the quality, product, flavor, differentiated flavors, packet size, price, everything is intact. But most important, where the volume of consumers were going were at the supermarkets, and that key customer who's buying in bulk, they wanted their shelves filled, they wanted their differentiated flavors, they wanted that servicing as fast as possible. So I just meant that it's not the distribution I am thinking is the customer. I know that's a channel, but the wholesaler who buys that bulk via the supermarket, that distribution aspect is a key service that we are providing. And I just wanted to make sure that, we are not losing opportunities if we don't focus on the needs of that particular aspect of that customer profile. But I hear you with making sure our consumers are also taken care of.
So I want to talk about, I'm thinking about what Patrice said about thinking about, she responded to my comment yesterday about, is it a job or is it a business? And I think I think, Patrice, what you said, that struggle, that's not unique. I bet everyone on the call has either gone through that or is about to go through that. So I think it's pretty important here. I'll share my experience with that because it's a change in mindset, and it wasn't easy for me. So my first business was a flight training business. We taught people how to become pilots to fly airplanes. And some people were going off to get careers as airline pilots. Other people were just learning how to fly because they wanted to fly for their business or personal reasons. And I had one of my students was a very successful entrepreneur. He had grown his business from scratch into many locations all around the United States and incredibly successful. And so every time I would meet with him to do a flight lesson, we'd end up talking about different things. And I was always complaining about all the things that business owners complain about, right? I was complaining about customers. I was complaining about money, complaining about employees. And one day he stopped me. He said, David, do you want to be a flight instructor or do you want to run a business? And I looked at him and I was puzzled as to why he was giving me what seemed like mutually exclusive options. And so I told him, I said, I want to do both. And he said, you can't. You have to pick one. And I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't believe him, but just to humor him, I said, okay, I want to grow a business. And he told me, he said, if you want to grow a business, stop flying airplanes, take some time off of work, and go figure out your business model. Go figure out what your customer value proposition is going to be. Figure out your blue ocean strategy. In fact, he was the first one who introduced me to the book Blue Ocean Strategy. Figure out where you fit and do not come back to work until you have created a meaningful competitive advantage that has meaning to your customers and allows you to sustainably do better than your competition. And you know what I said to him? I said, you're crazy. I can't take off of work. I've got bills to pay. I got customers to see. I said, you don't understand. In hindsight, this is hilarious. Here I was, the 20-year-old kid, telling the multi-million-dollar entrepreneur that he was the one who didn't understand. And so I didn't listen to him. Fortunately, he liked me. And he beat on me for about 3 or 4 months. And he kept telling me this over and over again until finally one day I said, you know what? He's right. I'm going to have to change. And I took myself off the flight schedule. I stopped flying airplanes. That was incredibly difficult for me to do. The business suffered for a couple of months because it lost its best flight instructor. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be prideful and say I'm a better flight instructor than anyone else. I just had more invested in that business and worked harder than anyone else and became the best flight instructor. And I wasn't teaching airplane. I wasn't teaching lessons anymore. After 2 months of struggling, we started to emerge as a contender in the national flight training market because I was spending my days working on my business, not in my business. I was spending my days figuring out how to teach and train and coach the other flight instructors so they could be better versions of me, better than me. I was figuring out how to market better. I was figuring out how to position our business better, how to tweak our offerings. And so it was the most transformative day of my professional career. So I would definitely encourage everyone to really think through that. Don't take as long as I did, and don't need a hammer beat on you for many months to do it. But definitely, I highly recommend taking those words pretty seriously as you reflect on what you want to do. And if indeed you decide, no, I don't want to grow a business. I want to. What I want to do is be a flight instructor. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That can be a noble profession. Being a photographer is a noble profession. Being a doctor is a noble profession. There's nothing wrong with that. But where it does become a challenge is when we think that we're growing a business and we're not. It leads to many years of frustration and many years of not getting the traction that we think that we're building. So it's important to really understand those activities. So there's a little lanyard. I wasn't planning on sharing that today, but I just thought after Patrice's comment, I'd throw that in there. So let's talk. A couple of people did say, I think you were saying exercise 5, and I'm sorry, I don't have the workbook on my screen because I have the PowerPoint on my screen. Is exercise 5 this one where you revisit what is your customer value proposition?
I think so. That was the first you talked about that you beat today.
Yes. I think we had it at the beginning yesterday, and then we came back to it at the end. I'd love to hear, Brent, I think this is what you're referring to. Could you maybe dive in a little deeper? How did you change what you filled in these blanks yesterday evening and today that was different than when you first filled it out?
Okay. Well, firstly, it was a bit challenging to identify my clientele because I'm involved in health. So it's basically almost everyone. But I focused on customized health solutions for the individual. And so I would have changed that aspect because unlike my competitors, most of them, they have a generalized approach, but I more or less have a customized suited for the individual and what current health issues or challenges you're dealing with.
Very nice. And let me give you a challenge, Brent, on when the customer being everyone. I was one time teaching a course on entrepreneurial finance, and I had several business owners in the room, and they had a task to identify their target market. And one woman in the room, she said, "My target market is everyone." And I told her, I said, that's not possible. And she thought she had me because she said, no, no, no. My business is a funeral home and everyone dies. And so therefore my target market is everyone. And so I said, you're right. Everyone does die and everyone will need funeral services. 100% of the humans on the planet will need funeral services at some point. However, there are providers who offer different tiers of service, different levels, different types, different. So my point is that yes, I would agree everyone needs health and probably benefit, but there's going to be a certain group of the market out there that either needs what you have more or is going to be more easily reachable and more easily able to adopt what you're offering, right? There may be some people in certain demographics who are just primed better to hear what you're saying and convert. I would say I'm one of those people, right? I certainly look for alternative health things. And so, certainly, and I would say I'm different than a lot of other Americans who, sometimes don't believe in things like that or don't seek things like that out. So I challenge you, not immediately right now, but going forward, I challenge you to refine that and see if you can narrow that down to who are those people who are just most inclined to be able to convert and become your customers. Did anybody else change their customer value proposition? Did anyone? We heard from Catherine, we heard from Brent. Did anyone else change anything after we parted ways yesterday?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, who's that? Melina? Melina? Yes, hi, Melina. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. So I am a beautician, as I said yesterday. And so because of COVID, and the fact that we are home, people are working home regularly, the need to come and make yourself all cute for work 3 weeks is not on the highest of priorities for the professional woman at this point in time. They are, if not doing it for themselves, they're buying wigs. Because it's easy. And you don't have to leave home anymore. So that was my challenge in trying to figure out how can I, as a service provider, still be necessary in their eyes. And so I started doing monthly subscription boxes because I do sell products as well.
Yes.
And I started doing the products on a monthly subscription basis so that you can get yourself to do your self-care at home because they're not coming out as often. So in doing over the customer value proposition, I thought that it was So like the photographer that went on before, she said she had a sleepless night. I was frustrated because trying to make sense of all the information that you gathered, understanding that if you not hiring anybody, then you have a job and not a business. So it was just like, oh my goodness. So in the end, I wrote mine over and I said, providing customer care holistically by supplying clean, natural, toxic-free products and services that nurture physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of our customers through retreats, spa parties, and subscription boxes. So before COVID, I started doing these spa parties and everybody was loving it, but because we couldn't do that because as the quarantine home, the subscription boxes was my fallback. So this is the new angle that I'm looking to focus on for the long term because it makes sense even beyond COVID, and it makes more sense right now, even as this is what we're dealing with right now.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. That's wonderful to hear. And in fact,
I'm thinking that rolls right into the recurring revenue.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to talk about recurring revenue in just a couple of minutes. And that's a wonderful story to roll us into that. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Just real quick, I would just add, one of the challenges of being in a beautician's office, people coming to you for that service, and now you're kind of pivoting to more of a product offering through subscription service. And the problem is that those clients at home don't necessarily know how to use the products. Having some type of videos and add that to the mix, to basically bring you to them, might be something you consider.
So I actually started that. I started doing videos and I started a YouTube channel. So to do more videos to show how to use the products when you get them. What the multi-purpose products are, the benefits that you can get from it. So I am now looking to get into that to help encourage more sales.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Excellent. So we're going to talk about recurring revenue in just a sec. But I guess before we do, on the strategy canvas, I'd love to hear from at least one person on that. Who filled out a strategy canvas yesterday, and what was that like? How was that exercise? Did anyone fill out a strategy canvas yesterday? I know that was a bit more work than the customer value proposition.
Remind everyone that was the Cirque Soleil.
Right. Cirque du Soleil, Southwest Airlines. Yeah, we had the x-axis, the features of your industry, the factors on which your industry competes. So not seeing any hands or any mutes up there. Is that Lottie? You had something?
Yes, I think I kind of touched base with everyone. For that particular exercise, I think it was a combination of two things. It's a combination of the amount of work that they want to devote to it, because they really want to think things through, as well as the fact that they were time challenged, being entrepreneurs. So that is a work in progress. And I'll be following up with that with them, to see how they navigate that.
Great. That that's actually what I was about to say. Is just that was a bigger exercise. So hopefully, what we've done here is introduce you to it and given you a framework around which you can put your thoughts and start to analyze your industry. So please, though, don't let that one sit. That one's really important, especially if you're trying to understand your model and your new model in this new world. So please, and it deserves a good amount of time. It deserves, there's some companies who spend all day just only on that, trying to figure it out. So that's going to be a session in and of itself. So okay, well let's go on to is that have something else? No.
I was going to say that I tried to do mine.
Yes.
My graph was, that's when I said, okay, I think I don't have to watch a movie. Working through it because on the service end, because I work from home, my salon, I'm no longer in the city. I'm more away. I'm more not country, but I'm not where it's buzzing. So I did the scale from low to high, and as it pertains to everybody else who is like over here in the state area or close to the main road, they would have had more advantages than me. But my advantages over them would be price and service and aftercare, because not much people make their own products so the customers could go home to continue the self-care at home when they're not coming to you. So that was my advantage over them service-wise and with the products. Because I do natural products and there are so much of us out there right now, that's the challenge. And my challenge was trying to figure out how do you get a space in the market to be able to have visible and to grab your share of the market, because I am competing with foreign products that we have a lot of on the shelf that has professional, not that my packaging is not professional, I love my packaging, I wouldn't change it, but their stuff is, the quality is excellent as compared to the local, where you have your stuff printed here locally. So the quality, their packaging, they have more sizes, so they have that upper knee. Their own will be cheaper because they are in the country where the packaging is actually produced, so they don't have to pay shipping and all that. I will have to pay. So it's really difficult trying to, even though your product is good, because mine, it does not, a baby could use my product. That's how safe it is. And even though I have that advantage over them, because they still have chemicals, and even though the toxin might be low grade, it's still in it, and they cannot claim 100% organic as I would be able to. And even though that's the case, because they're on, they're able to draw, as opposed to me with small. You're not known as much as they are. So that was my challenge after doing this exercise.
Thanks for sharing. And I think that highlights so much more, the videos that you're making, things like that, because that just allows us, allows you to differentiate, beyond the product, right? It's, and so I think that's wonderful. So well, let's go into recurring revenue now, because Melina, you did a great job of kind of giving us that flow right into it. So Melina said she's got a subscription, monthly subscription boxes, and she's hitting on another value driver here. When we talked about the 8 drivers of business value, recurring revenue is an enormous one. It's a really pivotal driver. And Melina has changed her model recently to be a recurring revenue model. Somebody we haven't heard from yet, who can help us? Why would you think recurring revenue would be more valuable than not recurring revenue? Who can share some insight on that?
Perhaps David, you want to, just don't want to assume that we all know. Maybe you want to give us a little bit of explanation about recurring revenue.
Sure. So recurring revenue is revenue that is going to happen again and again. It is not reoccurring revenue, which would be if you have a customer come buy a candy bar in your store and then a week later they come buy another candy bar in your store. That would not be recurring revenue. Recurring revenue is where your customer signs up and agrees with you to buy something from you on a regular basis over and over again. And so I'll tell you some huge benefits of this. One of them is that it is very expensive and difficult to continually go out and get new customers. For us at Emerge Dynamics, it takes us an incredible amount of time to convince a business owner to trust us enough to let them into their world, to be an advisor. And once we get in there, they usually love us and they want us to do all sorts of things, but getting in is tricky. And so to be able to know that we don't have to go out over and over again, and we're not offering these one-off services where we have to convince someone over and over to buy from us, just makes our world so much more stable. So recurring revenue, it allows you to plan better, allows you to know how much revenue you're going to get in. It allows you to have a less stressful day-to-day life because you know you don't have you can just plan to deliver a quality offering instead of always wondering if there's anyone to deliver that quality offering to. And when you go to sell your business one day, you have a much greater chance of having a business that is sellable at all if you have recurring revenue, because people will buy that. That has value to a buyer. So that's also something that you can think about as you start thinking about for the future. So and recurring revenue can happen. Some industries, like say software, are just easy to think about for recurring revenue. I mean, almost all software companies these days have recurring revenue. They sign you up for some subscription and you pay per month to have access to whatever they have. That's a pretty easy one. But almost every business can at least embrace some type of recurring revenue some kind of way. Here's an example of a business that I certainly didn't think had any possibility of recurring revenue, but really embraced it and did really well. This is a true story. There was a florist, so they sell flowers in the United States. And as I learned about this story, I realized there were some things about the floral industry I didn't realize. But in the floral industry, it is incredibly uncertain, right? So you get almost all of your sales happen right before Valentine's Day, right before Mother's Day, and maybe a couple of other holidays. So you could go weeks and months with hardly any sales, and all of a sudden you make all your money in 2 weeks leading up to Valentine's Day. So it's very lumpy, very uncertain. And then I didn't realize this either. Flowers, they perish quickly, and so typical florists often throw away large amounts of their flowers because it's very difficult for them to plan for how much they have to have in their inventory because they don't know who's going to show up. Some guy's on his way home from work and he forgot it's his wife's birthday that day or his anniversary. So he runs in and buys some flowers and, there's no way to plan for that. So what these guys did, they said, this isn't working. We're never going to scale like this. We're working hard. We're always stressed out. We're not enjoying time with our families because we're always stressed out, not making enough money. So they embraced a recurring revenue model. And what they did is they figured out, and I admit that what they did might be a little bit more challenging today in COVID, but I hope this just inspires that you can do recurring revenue in any industry. But they approached hotels and spas. And they figured out that a lot of hotels, especially high-end hotels, they like to have fresh flowers in the lobby for their customers. A lot of spas like to have fresh flowers out there for their customers. And they went to every one of them and said, how about you don't have to buy flowers anymore? We'll provide them for you. You pay us a regular monthly fee. And in exchange, we will bring at every day or every week, however often we need, we will bring fresh flowers for you. So your lobby just always has fresh flowers in it. There's an amazing switch in how they ran their business because suddenly every single month, they in fact closed down their retail store. The guys who needed flowers for their wives for their anniversary, they had to go somewhere else because these guys would not sell it to them because but every month they knew how much revenue was coming in. They knew exactly how many flowers to order, and they were able to deliver a consistent offering to their customers on a regular basis. Completely changed their model. In fact, it was so successful, they were able to later sell their business for millions of dollars because they now had a scalable, repeatable model that they could, investors loved to have a piece of. So let's just talk real quick about, and in fact, if you go through a value builder engagement, this is something that you'll run through this in depth with a specific exercise. But let me just show you some different types of recurring revenue, just to see if we can get you thinking of some ideas for now. So I'm going to show you 6 of them. They're all valuable, but we're going to go from the least valuable to the most valuable. So number 6 would be a consumable. So if you sell something to someone that gets used up and they need to buy it again, that could be recurring revenue. It's very loose recurring revenue, but you got a coffee here, right? There's people, they like to drink their coffee. They drink it every day. You can't drink coffee again that you have already drunk. So you have to get another one. And so that would be probably the lightest. That's still a great business. A lot of coffee shops do really well, but that's kind of the lightest recurring revenue. Next is a sunk money consumable. And what do we mean by that? It means a customer is going to buy something that they need, some kind of machine or equipment or something that they've invested in, and now you can sell them repeat business, repeat supplies for this machine. So one example would be an espresso machine or a Keurig machine. I'm not sure how popular those are in Trinidad. They're very popular in the United States. But essentially, this is a really nice coffee machine that makes really nice coffee, makes espresso. You pay a few $100s for the machine. And after that, you have to buy the pods that go in the machine. It's the only way you can get any coffee out of it. So that's a way to get your customers to start thinking about, they have to keep coming back to you. And they'll even sign a subscription agreement with you to get those pods on a regular basis. Next would be just a straight subscription. Traditional, this is often what people think of as a magazine. Someone just pays and says, hey, for the next year, I want you to send me this every month. I want a magazine to show up, right? That's if you have a newsletter, if you have some advice, some other type of offering, right? That would be a recurring revenue model there. Another is a sunk money subscription. Bloomberg is a really good example here. You might not be that familiar with Bloomberg if you're not in the finance industry, but essentially this is a company that you pay a lot of money to have access to a terminal. So if you're in finance, you do research on markets and prices of different stocks and companies. You can get them all inside of Bloomberg. And so what you do is you pay a large upfront fee in order to have the privilege of being able to go in and have this service. And then every month you have to pay a recurring license fee to continue on in that. So that's another example of recurring revenue. And Ria, is that a question? Oh, no, she's back on mute. Another is auto renewal. This is something where in perpetuity, your customer just stays subscribed to you. Iron Mountain is a paper shredding company. And so businesses will pay Iron Mountain a certain amount per month, and Iron Mountain will come out and pick up all their paper or their sensitive information and shred it for them. The customer just signs an agreement with Iron Mountain and it'll stay on forever until the company turns it back off. So it actually can be a great thing for both the customer and the company. At Emerge Dynamics, we've embraced a model very similar to this. So, more and more lately, we won't do one-off services for people because it's just a lot of work for us. And we found it's much easier for us to deliver an ongoing subscription where we'll sign up with a company to help them. And it's a monthly amount. And we'll just keep going. Now, of course, we've got to provide way more value to the company than they're paying us for. But the idea is we don't have to worry about billing. We don't have to worry about collections. We actually will just sign a bank agreement with them where their money just shows up every month in our account, and then we go ahead and we provide them the service. So it's a great recurring revenue model that helps us deliver our service better and also helps us be much better off. And then finally, a long-term contract. That's the ideal recurring revenue model there. You think about your cell phone providers. The world's changing these days, but it used to be, at least in the United States, where there were cell phone providers that would make you sign a 3-year agreement. Why were they doing that? Is because once they signed a 3-year agreement with you, they didn't have to sell you anything for 3 years. They could focus on other people. This made their valuations incredibly high. They have competition now. They're not doing that near as much anymore. But the idea is, as you're thinking about your business model, how you pivot, what's going to go into your customer value proposition, what's your value curve and your blue ocean strategy canvas, start thinking about how can you maybe tweak this offering to offer some element of recurring revenue. Not all of you are going to be able to convert every single thing in your business to purely only recurring revenue. That might be nice. That's trickier for some than others, but almost everybody can do at least some type of recurring revenue somewhere in their business. So we're going to send you as a follow-up. What we're going to do, there's a chapter of a book, and it's all about ideas for recurring revenue, running you through examples and exercises on how to really brainstorm ideas to get your business model to be a recurring revenue model. So we're going to make that available to you. That's one of the things that Lottie is going to have. You should reach out to her after the program here. She'll be able to send that out to you. So we'll get that to her here in the next few minutes or next couple of hours, and you'll be able to benefit from that. So let me just pause there because I've been talking too long and not being interactive. Any questions about recurring revenue before we move on?
David? Oh, sorry. Should I raise my
Yes.
hand?
Hi, Earl. Go ahead.
So I didn't raise my hand first.
No problem.
Yeah. What I was thinking of is that, for example, if I'm running a school, that you could have a pricing structure where if you pay for the entire year, academic year, you will pay probably on it, but you do it in a way that it's still a premium price. You're not compromising the price. You have a certain price where you pay for the year, and there are probably particular advantages of paying for a year. Given now that we will have blended learning as a permanent fixture for a while, we can give you a tablet, Samsung tablet, if you pay for a year. Train some kind of incentive to get the parents to pay for a year. That way,
Yes.
you will be able to capture revenue. You don't have to collect per term.
Yes.
So make that. So as I was sitting here, I was thinking of that. That's one thing you can do. Encourage the parents. You pay for a year, and what you do, you pay a little more if you're paying per term. So
Yes.
and because we would price it in a way that is still valuable, we can throw in a nice incentive that would now differentiate us from other schools. So which other school is going to be giving you a tablet for your child to use for the connectivity and so on? And then you could also provide technical support. It will be like for a limited period, help you set up and so on virtually, help you get everything in order. A sort of help desk as part of the things. You can throw in some nice things in there so that they get some support. Let's say, similar to when you buy an Apple computer, when you purchase it, you can get support. It's an option, but it's a nice option, and something like that. A sweetener.
Yes, absolutely. Earl, thank you for that example, because not only is that a recurring revenue example, but it's also a wonderful example for what we're getting ready to talk about in a few minutes about cash flow management. So you just kind of did a double header right there. So thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. Anyone else? Any questions, comments about recurring revenue ideas? Okay, let's change gears just for a few minutes before we dive into action planning and cash management. I want to talk about the crisis that we have going on right now. As we know from yesterday, there are some people in industries that are doing well, and there are some people who are in industries that are literally falling apart. Bankruptcies all around the world. are outrageously high. And there's a lot of transition changes problems out there. So we can go into this next section uh, in detail or in summary, but to help us understand, I guess, how much we need to talk about this, um, who can share just what are the biggest needs right now for the businesses in crisis, or are there people on this call who are in crisis, I guess, or in industries that are really struggling? What can we do to help, and what's the lay of the land there that we can help with? What I don't want to do is I don't want to have a discussion about crisis management if you all have been on 5 other webinars talking about the exact same topic, right? I want to make sure we're delivering some value to you. We want to differentiate ourselves, right? We don't want to give you the same thing you get everywhere else. We want to make sure we're giving you something fresh and valuable and different. So who can share? What are the most urgent needs right now in the crisis?
Hi.
Hi, Ria.
Hi. How are you?
Good, thank you. What are your
I,
thoughts?
I think I can only speak for myself and my situation. One of the most urgent needs is being able to keep staff, pay staff, pay our suppliers, and keep the business alive, afloat, which has been it's been pretty tough. Like I said yesterday, things have changed. The economy all around is tough, and I think it's knowing what is working for now, what is working for COVID-19 and beyond.
Hmm?
So
And
yeah,
what is your business? Can you remind us?
we are into repairs and haberdashery, which is a little bit of everything. We do repairs to all types of bags, suitcases, lunch bag, you name it. We're into framing. We sell bags as well, belts, a little bit of really and truly a little bit of everything.
Gotcha.
A little bit of everything. Yeah.
So I'm hearing the issue is keeping staff, paying suppliers. I guess paying suppliers is tough when revenue is down.
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
I'm guessing the issue with paying suppliers is because revenue is down. There's less sales,
That's right.
so there's less cash with which to pay the suppliers.
That's
Yeah.
right. Just before we were locked down quite recently, this would have been somewhere in August. We had ordered quite a big bill, quite a large bill, because schools were just about to reopen.
Yeah.
According to the Prime Minister, schools were reopening, so we had catered to school reopening, lunch bags, school bags, all types of bags, laptop bags, all types of bags. And the week that we got all our supplies was the week that he decided to shut everything down and do it online.
No. Yeah.
So we took a bit of a hit. In fact, we're still feeling the effects of the hit. But it's not something that our suppliers are understanding at all. So, and like I said, this is a business that my husband and I are inheriting from my father. So I grew up in it. There are aspects that I know very, very well. There are just some things, because I was out of touch doing pursuing my own career, that I may have lost touch with, but there are things, and I just feel like there are things that we just need to push forward. I'm not sure what just yet, but.
So we'll talk about some initiatives here in a few minutes. So maybe we can help distill some of that. And then we'll talk about some of this managing suppliers actually too. So maybe we'll run through just a couple of tips on that have been helpful for us. Maybe can we see a show of hands? How many people have currently some type of loan from a bank? some type of debt. I know some businesses won't have any, other businesses it's a pivotal part of what they do. Who has some kind of bank loan?
David?
Yes?
Just before we move on to that, I had reached out to some of us before the workshop, asking the same question you just asked.
Okay.
Yes, so I just want to give you 1 or 2 responses just to fast track the process.
Yes.
From Jonathan, he mentioned that the business has been affected in the area of payment collection and meeting financial obligations in time. This is because their clients' businesses are affected financially, and it affects their own ability to make payments, affects their clients' ability to make payments to them, which in turn affects their ability to meet their own financial commitments. And Catherine had mentioned that, just give me a second here to, yes, the restrictions that have faced them, the areas affected is reduction in sales and income, which was general with everyone actually. Challenges in meeting commitments with loans, salaries and payables, reduction in staffing, low staff morale issues, limited access to raw materials and delays in projects. So I thought I could add that.
Yes.
To, Ria's
okay.
submission.
Yes. Thanks, Lottie. So let's look at just a few things that we found have been valuable in all cultures and all situations when businesses start to experience some trouble. And they come down to communication and planning. And so let's talk about communication first. Proactive communication can be the difference between life and death. It can become very, very tempting to ignore the phone call and ignore the email. I know this firsthand. I know this recently. I've played roles as an outsourced executive for companies that have had trouble. And I've had my phone ringing from vendors of those companies, just desperately trying to collect cash. And you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I'm having a good day and I know what's going to happen if I answer that phone. I know what the conversation is going to be and I don't want to have a bad day. So I don't want to answer the phone. So, I mean, even though I talk about this stuff with other people, I personally am also can get that temptation. And I just, however, at some point, that vendor is going to run out of cash in their bank account. And they're going to have to take some kind of action, cut someone off, and they're going to have to start cutting people off. And you would like them to give, if at all possible, to give you more time. So when they're deciding who are they going to cut off, who are they not going to get it cut off, you'd like to not be on that list, especially if it's a critical vendor. You're less likely to be on that list if you've been picking up the phone. And we need to pick up the phone and be honest. And it's okay to say, here's what's going on in my business. I want to pay you. I fully acknowledge I owe you the money. I can't do it right now. There's just no cash with which to do it. But here's what I can do. I can do, I owe you $100. I can give you $10. But I think at all times, having that line of communication open is going to buy you more time. That's just it's not a strategic thing. It's a tactical thing. But I know right now when we do get cash problems very deeply, which is a lot of people on the planet are having, these are some things that can maybe just get us a few more weeks or months, which hopefully can get us through until we're on the other side of this and things start to improve. Another thing is segment your vendors into essential and non-essential. This isn't fun to do. It sounds like it's not fair. But in fact, I would argue it's a more moral way of going about things. Some vendors, if they don't ship to you, your business will cease to exist. There are essential vendors that you need in order for your business to exist. There are other vendors who maybe it's nice to have their stuff, you do want to buy their stuff, but if they cut you off, your business would not have to close its doors. So when you have very limited cash, you need to think about who is this cash going to go to? It should go to the essential vendors first. not the non-essential vendors. And I'm going to tell you why I believe, at least, this is I think you have to be honest and transparent with the non-essential vendors and explain to them what's going on. But if you do this, you are hopefully getting your business to live to see the day when it can pay the non-essential vendors back. If your business shuts down, doesn't exist anymore, nobody's getting paid, right? So a lot of times we say, hey, that's not fair. That's a little bit heartless, right? But sometimes when it comes down to just desperate last bits of cash, we have to make difficult decisions. And the best, even if it comes to laying people off, right? I heard there was a company in the United States that prided itself on never laying people off. And then a couple of months into the crisis, it laid off like 300 or 400 people. And I listened to an interview with the CEO of that company, and the interviewer was asking, how do you reconcile this? You prided yourself on always being there for your people, and you laid off 300 or 400 people. How do you reconcile this ethically? And what he said, if this business doesn't exist anymore, no one's going to have a job. He says, if I can get this business to live a few more months or 6 more months, hopefully I can hire some of these people back, and hopefully they'll only be out of work for a couple of months. If my business falls apart, I can never hire them back. And so I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a fun thing, but I think there are ways that we can, when it really comes down to cash management, and we're talking more about vendors than employees, but employees can fall in this category too. Very important to be transparent, to be ethical, to let everyone know what's going on. It's going to buy you more time. Your employees probably, even if you're transparent and open with them, they'll even sometimes allow you a little bit more time until you can hopefully get to a place where you've pivoted your model. You've got your recurring revenue going. You've got some other revenue source going because you've found and moved to where those customers are, and now your business is running again. So one other thing to say, let's jump to the planning section. We'll leave you all, this is another thing, if you want to reach out to Lottie after the fact and would like this, there's a spreadsheet that we'll give you, you can use as a tool for anyone who's dealing with a bank right now, or a landlord, and the cash is low, you're struggling to make payments. Here's what we recommend you do. Separate your expenses into variable and fixed, and then run some scenarios with different levels of revenue reduction. At this point, we've been doing this for 6 or 7 months. I know back in April, a lot of us didn't know. We didn't know if our business was going to drop 10% or 40% or 100%. At this point, we kind of understand what it's going to be like. We're not back to normal. Maybe we're in the new normal. None of us knows, but at some point we understand how our business can run. What level of revenue does our business have in the COVID world? So I think it's really important here to go ahead and separate into variable and fixed, and start figuring out. So, hey, if I have a scenario where my business usually makes $300,000 or TTs, right? And I have a scenario where I'm going to be at $150,000 or TTs. What does that mean? What does that mean as far as what my net income is going to be, what my cash balance is going to be, and can I live to do this? So I know a lot of us are bleeding right now. And I think it's important to say, okay, if this goes on 6 more months, how much cash is it going to cost me? Do I have enough cash to get through? If not, what's my plan? Do I need to call my bank and say, I can't pay you for 3 months? I call my landlord and say, I can't pay you for 3 months, but then I can, and here's my plan. I've done this on behalf of many companies. I find that banks, landlords, any kind of creditor, when I go on behalf of a company and I sit down with a plan and I show them, we can't pay you right now, and here's why, and here's what's going on, but we acknowledge the debt, we are going to pay you, and here's our plan to get from now until from A to B, and at B we'll be able to start making some payments with you again. The odds, I can't promise they'll work with you, but the odds that they will work with you are much, much higher. I've seen it numerous times in my career. I've seen it numerous times since March. I've seen banks just do some incredibly generous things in the last 9 months, but they do it so much more effectively and so much faster if there's a plan. So we're not going to dive deep into scenario planning right now, but I did want to just show this to you because I know just the reality of where some people might be on this call, where they're just dealing with last little bits of cash and trying to figure it out. And what we'll do is we'll take this. This is a spreadsheet. This is a snapshot from Microsoft Excel that we built for doing this. I mean, a bigger business will probably need a much more elaborate tool than the one that we're going to give. And if that's your need, let us know. We'll see what we can do for you. But for most businesses, this tool is probably a good way to get started, just to get you thinking about how things can go. So let's move now to talking about cash management here. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Before we do that, let's just talk about, I just want to say one more thing about customer satisfaction. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about Net Promoter Score. I just wanted to show you something I thought was pretty interesting as a follow-up to that. Understanding how satisfied your customers are is very, very important. Like we said, that's one of the value drivers in the value builder system. There's a thing called Net Promoter Score. There's numerous providers out there who will do a Net Promoter Score for you. You could do it on your own. It would be a lot of work, but you could do it on your own. But if you're part of the value builder system, if you're doing like with Lottie, a value builder program, it's included. It's no extra charge. It's just part of the offering. But Net Promoter Score was made by some folks, I think at Bain Consulting. I could have that wrong, but I think it's Bain Consulting, United States. And it's a ratio which shows how many of your customers are promoting your brand versus detracting from your brand. And if you look here, this is a correlation. You may remember we talked about Southwest Airlines yesterday. It's an airline in the United States. You saw their blue ocean value curve. It was much different than all the other airlines. And one of the factors that they competed on was friendly service. And we want to have friendly service because we want to be good people, and it's just good to be friendly. However, as business owners, we also need to understand what are the factors that makes our business more profitable. Well, here's just one example, but this example is everywhere. We can correlate Net Promoter Score to long-term revenue growth. And here you can see airlines, I don't know what they're like in other parts of the world, but in the United States, airlines are notoriously horrible at customer service. And you can see their Net Promoter Score, most of them were under 20. They're just not friendly people. I don't know why, but it's not that difficult to be friendly, but they just aren't. And their Net Promoter Score is very low. I used to work for Continental Airlines, and I could tell the difference. Their Net Promoter Score was saliently better than most of the airlines out there in the industry. Southwest Airlines, however, look at this. Their Net Promoter Score is very, very high. When you're getting above a 50, 60 Net Promoter Score, you're starting to get to a point at which you have really good customer service. And we can put this in a correlation with revenue growth. And you can see it's not just hey, we're happier people. Southwest Airlines, like I told you before, was the only airline for many years that was profitable when no one else was. Well, sure enough, same thing here. Look at the bulk of the U.S. airlines were shrinking. They're either at zero growth or shrinking slightly. Southwest Airlines is the only one profitable, only one growing, only one with a high Net Promoter Score. So I just want to encourage you there. The steps are kind of get your selling proposition, your unique selling proposition. Get your blue ocean strategy. Understand what is the valuable thing that you're offering that really matters to your customers, that you can really deliver on and differentiates you from the competition, right? Hammer on that. And then once you get that, then understanding how well am I actually doing at this to serve my customers. And this Net Promoter Score is a great way to come after the fact to pick that up. So let me just pause for a second. Any questions, comments on that or anything else? Okay, and this comes from an article that we can leave with you on the amazing correlation between Net Promoter Score and revenue growth. Excuse me 1 second. I want to plug in my computer before I lose it. Okay. So let's now get into some of the. I want to just follow up with just a preview of cash. So here's our exercise, or one of our exercises today, and it was Earl. Was it you, Earl? Who was it that was saying in education you're paying you're thinking about getting people to pay up front for the year? Who
Yes,
was
it was me.
Yes, yes. So that not only is that great for recurring revenue, but that's great for actual cash management of your business, and it actually makes your business worth more. If you should ever sell your business, someone will pay more for it. And here's an example: if Earl were to tell all of his people in his school, don't pay me until the end of the year. You don't have to pay every month. You can just pay me when the school term ends. He would have an incredible need for cash during the year, because he would have to pay his people, pay his rent, pay his utilities, pay for his supplies. And so he would need to borrow a large amount of money from the bank during the year in order to just not go bankrupt during the year until he finally got paid by all his people at the end of the year. So hopefully you can see in that extreme, we call that working capital. That'd be cash trapped in his business that he would need to borrow from a bank to finance. And then you can think about, okay, well, if everyone pays during the month, at the end of every month during the school year, well, he'll have to float the pay for the teachers, pay for supplies during not the whole year, but only the month. So he might still need some cash in his business, either borrowed from a bank or some cash from a business, just to get him through the month until the people were to pay. Well, if the people would instead pay at the beginning of the month, he doesn't have to do this. He has the cash first. If he gets them to pay for the whole year at the beginning of the year, this is amazing, right? Not only is he sure that he's going to have to he's going to have enough cash to pay for everyone, but he also knows he doesn't have to worry about collecting either, right? Because he knows up front who paid, who didn't pay. He knows his collection efforts. He's just way in a better cash position. This can be an enormous thing as you're pivoting your model. It can be enormous to think about the cash impacts of when people will pay, how long it will take you to collect, things like that. So let's move into our next exercise. So this is in your workbook. I don't think this is exercise 3 in the workbook. I apologize. I have the wrong title up here. But take 2 minutes on each one. While we're all sitting here, while this is fresh in your head, see if you can write this down. In either the model you have now or the model you're getting ready to embrace because you're thinking about pivoting, write down at least 3 things in each of those boxes. I'll be quiet. See if you can fill that out. And let's talk again in 4 minutes. Say one more minute and then we'll talk. All right, let's see what we've got. We already heard from Earl, who had a great kickoff for this. Let's hear from at least one person, maybe two people. What did you write down here? Who has something they can share? Who can share just one of their ideas?
Sorry, this is Madonna.
Yes, Madonna, go ahead.
Yes, well, I would ask them for a mobilization fee.
What does that mean?
Okay, upon their acceptance of our proposal, we ask them for a percentage to do, for example, the intervention or the training will have a number of phases. So before we start, we ask them to pay us a percentage.
Okay, great. Is that something you do now, or it's something you just thought about as you were filling this out?
I've done it before with the more reputable ones.
Ah, okay, yes. Great, well, there you go. Certainly, and that can be a big help to you and your cash flow.
Yeah.
Yes. And Patrice, go ahead.
So yeah, I would say to offer flexible payment options. So right now I offer, you can pay online. So people can do online transfers and pay upfront versus cash on delivery. Is that what you meant?
Yes, absolutely. That's an idea right there. Absolutely. How about someone sharing who put something in the second box? Who has an idea for slowing down the speed at which with which they pay?
I've got nothing. I've got nothing for that box. I'm sorry. Nothing.
Thank you for being candid. How about Stella? Dr. King, go ahead.
Yeah, I think with the second box, I would maybe make an arrangement with the vendor to have a 90 days payment plan, or a 120 days payment plan.
Yeah,
so where instead of paying up front immediately, you can they give you up to 90 days or 120 days to pay.
Right, that's valuable. If your customers will pay you sooner than 90 days and your vendors will give you 90 days or more, that can really help your cash flow. So yes, absolutely great. And then one more, Earl. Let's hear from Earl again.
Yeah, what we did, for example, we did this. Well, this is on the church. I am my church's administrator, and what I've noticed is that in the areas where companies have a lot of competition, like for example, guys who do air conditioning services, what we did is that you sign a services agreement, and because they are so happy to have to know that they have a cash flow from us, we have an agreement that we sign. And the repayment period is usually more extensive than if you're dealing with a vendor on a one-off opportunity. So it's a long-term arrangement, and therefore it allows us more time because they know that if they have to service, let's say, twice per year, biannually or whatever, per quarter, because the business is there. So on our end, we get to pay, we get a lengthy time to make the payments.
Excellent, absolutely. Yes.
David,
So
quick, I'll add, I had one of my clients that, as David does outsource CFO, I do outsource CFO work for them. And we had an old debt with one of the vendors, and we offered several different options. One of those options was, hey, we can pay you right now today 40% or 50% of this balance for settlement of the whole balance. Or we could pay you maybe 10% and we get a structured plan. And in those circumstances, a lot of times the vendors are just saying, look, I'll take 50% right now or 40% right now as settlement, and because they need cash very much right now. And I wouldn't say that that's an issue ethically, but it's something that if you provide examples or different options, then let them speak. But it needs to be within what's your means. But certainly that's an option.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say what would not be ethical is if we said, hey, I owe you $1,000, but I'm just not paying it. I'm going to give you 500. And if you don't like it, you can just sue me, take me to court, right? There are people who do business that way. I don't really see that as a good way to do business, but to be transparent and to tell them, hey, how about this? How about I pay you over time? Or I say 500 now, as long as it's a mutually agreed upon solution. They may be in a spot where they're better off because of what you just offered. I don't see anything wrong with that. I see that as a win-win.
What I can share with this is, for example, in our case, our suppliers of raw material, if we have one major key supplier that has multiple products that we buy from them, what I did, I split up the purchasing. So if we might have a 30 or 45 days term, so I buy one commodity at a time instead of lumping everything on one bill, and then it becomes due on the 30 days, for example, milk, and so we stretch it out, and that based on the consumption you have to know the consumption of the raw material too as well to time that out properly. So instead of we were taking a huge bill with all of our items, we started to break it up. So it's less have to pay.
That's creative. Yes, absolutely. I'm sure that makes an impact with your cash management. Absolutely. Thanks for sharing. So folks, I have here on the screen some next steps. I'm not going to go over these in detail just yet because I want to make sure we get to our action planning, and I want to make sure we get enough time on action planning to make sure you've got what you need to take with you after we're done. I have this on the screen, however, as ideas for other things you can do. These are other things aligned with other drivers of value. We talked about the 8 drivers of value for a business. We talked about recurring revenue already, but there's this reduced reliance on items down here, very powerful things. So those are just ideas you can put in your head, let some seeds sprout. If you want to know more about how to really develop each of those, I recommend talking with Lottie. She's got a specific curriculum to help kind of work on those things and really help the business. So I just have these up on the screen here for just a bit. We're going to go to action planning now. If we get time at the end, we can come back to these and have a discussion, or we can just send maybe this list out to you as just some other things to work on. So let's now take it from strategy to action. We've talked a lot about strategy. You've written some ideas down of things you need to do. You've been working on your business, which is what we all need to do. We all need to take time away from working in the business, work on it. That's going to make the business run better. But we do need to go back into the business, right? And we do need to start putting things into action here. So let's talk about how we can do that. And we're going to use a framework you may have heard of before, where all of our objectives, we're going to make them SMART. Not smart as in they're intelligent, not stupid, not like that, but SMART as in there's an acronym here, and I guess it does make them intelligent if you follow it. But each objective that we come up with, We want to make sure it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and the one I think is the most important, it's time bound. So we would not want to come up with an objective that says, I'm going to get better at marketing, right? Because how in the world do you measure better at marketing? The objective needs to be specific and measurable to a point at which we can understand, you can know if you actually got there or not. So it may be, I'm trying to think, how can I make that measurable? I could say, I'm going to make sure I have within 3 months, 1,000 more social media followers, right? So now you've made it time bound, you've made it measurable, you know if you got there or not. I am going to launch a brand campaign or a marketing campaign that's going to get me 200 new leads between now and the end of the year. Okay, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, it's time bound, right? It's pretty specific. So that's what we need to think about, everything we do here. So I'm getting ready to give you an exercise to think of your objectives. Remember, each one needs to be smart. After we think of the objectives, we're going to think about how do we measure them, and we're going to think about who's going to do them and when. But right now, let's just think of the objectives. So here's your next exercise. You have this in your workbook. You've got 3 blanks. I forget which exercise it is, maybe exercise 2 or 3. I'm sorry, I'm in PowerPoint mode on my screen, so I can't open the workbook right now, but here's the exercise right now. I'm going to be quiet in just a few seconds. I'm going to give you 3-4 minutes, maybe more. Sit and think everything we've done today and yesterday, everything you've heard people share, everything that's gone on, that's transpired. What are the top 3 things, top 3 objectives you need to accomplish in your business? The 3 most important things that you need to accomplish in your business. So go ahead, take a few minutes. I'm going to be quiet now. Write those down. Okay, now that you have those top 3 objectives put down there, go ahead and turn to the next page in your workbook. It should look something like this. So for each of the objectives, you can write them in the blank that you wrote in this blank here, objective 1, then blank, you can write in what it was. And then for each of them, you notice, I'm sorry, there we are. For each of them, you notice here's some things we want to come up with to make these, put these things into place. So first, for each objective, what actions do you need to take to make that objective turn into reality? Now remember, you just wrote down, and I get this may change, you may sleep on it tonight and change it tomorrow, that's okay. But you just wrote down, what are the top 3 things, the most important things in the world to your business? What are they? To make them happen. So for each one, go ahead and write down the top 3 actions that need to occur in order to make those come into place. Right now, you're only going to do the action, but let me just show you the other columns so you understand what you're getting ready to do. After you've done the action, you're going to have to write down what's the measure of that action. So how will you know that this thing is complete? Again, to say get better at talking to people is not a measurable anything. You need to have something to say that is measurable and be able to write down here, how will you know? What measure will have occurred so you know you have succeeded? Then you're going to write down who in your organization is responsible for making this happen. This is really, really important. And what I want to caution you against is don't write down everyone. Don't even write down 2 different people. Here's what happens. When more than one person is accountable for an action, no one is accountable for the action. You need to have one person. There may be 2 or 3 people working on this, but one person has to have accountability for saying, it stops with me. I'm going to make sure this measure happens by this date. So I want to give you that framework so you know what's coming up next. But for now, take a couple minutes, write down for each objective 3 actions that need to occur to make each objective come to life. I'll be quiet. I'll see you in a few minutes. So we've got about 2 more minutes to work on this. I know I said only do the actions, and if you need all the time to only do actions, that's okay, take your time. If you're done, go ahead and fill out some of the other columns as well. Okay, so hopefully at this point, you've got those objectives written and you at least have those actions written. Some of you may have measure, responsible, date filled in as well. If not, that's okay. What we want to do here is leave you with a framework for moving forward, right? For taking the things we've reflected on these last couple of days and setting them into action and having a plan for executing, for moving forward with them. So what I highly recommend, and I know in an in-person setting, this is a little bit easier. Unfortunately, we can't be there with you because of everything going on in the world, although I can't wait to be there. We haven't made it to Tobago yet. Here it's very nice, looking forward to going and seeing it. But I'm getting off track, I guess. What we want to do is make sure you take this with you into the future. What we have here is a relatively simple action plan, right? And if this is all you use, you have something very powerful that is going to make a lot of difference in your business. What I want to make sure you highlight, and this is some of the advantages of working with a business coach or a mentor, is just now, when you had forced yourself to take some time away from working in your business, when you were in a steady state of mind, a calm state of mind, an inspired state of mind, you just identified 3 objectives that are the most important things in the world for you to accomplish in getting your business to go where it needs to go. Here's what happens to people. Tomorrow, or maybe Monday, you're going to jump into your business and you're going to get hit with a million fires. And you're going to get crazy busy and stressed out. And what happens is you can let time tick by, days can turn into weeks, can turn into months, and you haven't, and then you'll find you're not working on your objectives. And so if we were to talk again in 3 months, unless you're careful, and I might ask you, say, hey, what were your objectives? Have you done them yet? And if you said no, I said, what happened? You told me at our session, at our workshop, these are the most important things in the world, but you didn't do the most important things in the world. You spent all your time on things that were less important. That's how it can often go unless we take this by the reins and we force it into action. So one of the benefits, so it's important to forcibly carve out time. I personally, I like to do this 4 days a week. I would not be honest with you if I said I do it perfectly every week, 4 days a week, but at least a couple of days a week. I will carve out a couple of days in the morning and I won't look at my phone. I won't look at my email. I'll get up, I'll pray, and I will plan my day and I will focus on what are the high level strategic things that I'm supposed to be doing that I fell short on or that I need to have a renewed focus on. And I use that to try to put my week into action, because what happens is if I check my email, I check my messages, I end up doing what other people want me to do and not what I want to do and not what I think God wants me to do. And so it's really important for me to have that focused time. I highly recommend that you do that as well. That's also one of the big benefits of working with a business mentor or a business coach is it's a set aside time on your calendar to shut off the world and really reflect the type of exercises that we've been doing here today on a regular basis. So super important things. We have just a few minutes left, so let me just leave you with a couple of things here. For those of you who want something more elaborate than the simple template that we just showed you, there are more elaborate versions. You can track by quarter, by month. So if your business is a little larger, this may be more appropriate and necessary. Reach out to Lottie. We're going to provide a template for Lottie as well. So she'll be the point of contact. She gets something she can provide. We do have a blank spreadsheet for that people can populate if they want to do that. And then I'm going to come back to this just a sec. I want to also highlight something else here for you. We covered 3 or 4 of the drivers of value in our session here. And my hope is that we have already created more value for you than you paid to be here. If not, we want to know that. We like that feedback because we always aim to create way more value than people are paying for. If you want to know how you are performing on all 8 drivers of business value. You can do that for free. So here's a final takeaway that we can offer for you. If you go to emergedynamics.com and click on that, I don't know what color that is, pink or red button right there on the home page. You click on that. There's a survey that will take you maybe 13 minutes. If it could take you 20, 25 minutes, but it's not long. And it's going to give you, obviously in 13 to 20 minutes, it's not super deep, but that's on purpose. It's going to give you some really good insight as to how you are currently doing at all 8 of the drivers of business value. So if you go do that, we'll make sure Lottie will get that, and Lottie will reach out to you, contact you to follow up, and she'll be happy to go over that with you as well. So a really great kind of next step to guide you, finish out the strategic thought, and kind of finish guiding you into, okay, what are the actions now that you can start taking to continue to increase the value of your business and the prosperity of your business. So let's just finish up here. I don't remember any parking lot items, Eric, for today. Are there any?
Yeah, but David, if I could just 2 quick
please, yeah,
points is when you're thinking about the operational master plan, this action plan, there's a key reason why we have 3 objectives listed and 3 actions for each objective. Is I know there are some who have a tendency to list out 40 different things, 50 different things. And it's been my experience, and I think many psychologists will tell you that the more you list out, sometimes the more you just get inertia. And so really narrowing yourself down to those 3 most important things. And then within those 3 most important things to get that accomplished, the 3 most important actions that are there, it's good discipline. Thinking in 3s, we think of in 3s. I think that's Trinitarian, and I think that's there's something spiritual about that. But I really encourage you to make sure that you work hard to just decipher that down to those 3 key points as you're working through any of those objectives and action plans. And the other is, as David mentioned, the benefit of not only having a coach, but like working within the NCB, you have a collective group of people who are like-minded, who are there to support, but it's also to provide accountability. If you look at people who join gyms and why 3 months later, 4 months later, they're usually not going to the gym. They're either canceling their subscription or whatever it may be. The number one issue is lack of accountability and lack of groupthink, if you will, and accountability. So I just really encourage you to participate in some type of mechanism that encourages accountability, whether that's working with Lottie as a coach, working with the NCB, or a combination of both of those.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Okay, folks, so we're out of time. I'm seeing the clock here. And so I hope this has been a great couple of days for you. I've certainly enjoyed it. I hope it shows. We love talking about things like this. It's always refreshing and invigorating to meet business owners, hear their dreams, hear their struggles, hear how they're overcoming their struggles. There's so much more I'd love to share and talk about, but we're coming to the end here of our time together for this. But please, continue to follow up. I know Lottie's got some good giveaways and takeaways that she can send out to the group or anyone who specifically asked for it. With that, we just wish you the best, wish you prosperity and lots of success in your business. And so with that, we'll turn it back over to Lottie. Any parting words or summary statements, Lottie?
Yes, thank you, David. As I sit here, I'm just thinking of one thing. I'm saying this is the best time. I don't think this could have come at a better time. We're coming to the end of a very, very interesting year, right? And we are looking to we're looking over the hill at the next year, and I think this is coming at in a timely fashion, and it's going to be very useful as we continue to strategize. Many of us are saying, okay, we've been caught unawares, but we we really now need to toughen ourselves up for the future. And I think you have given enough for us to be able to do that. And I think the big idea for the last 2 days is working on your business. I want to say thank you very much, David and Eric, for really bringing us to that space where we can do that for a couple of hours, and there's just so much that we have. And I believe that because of the shortness of the time, the amount of time we have, and it's not been possible for everyone to be able to participate, and we've not been able to respond as we could. But I think that there's a load of work. Everyone is looking to go and do some work on their business, hopefully. And so my prayer is that as we all work on our businesses, work on our organizations, these last 2 days will be very, very valuable, and it will really help us to progress forward. Having said that, I would also say that, expect the resources that David and Eric have very kindly given to us. And those, I have seen some of those resources. Believe me, they are very, very great. It's going to mean more money for our businesses. It's also going to mean stronger businesses for us. So I am looking forward to sending you those resources. We have an evaluation form that we'll be sending to you all after this. I am sure David and Eric would like to know again how this session has been, in greater detail. It's just about 5 questions, I believe, Louisa. Louisa, thank you for designing the form. So it's just about five questions that we have on it. So take time, and also it's digital, so we are going to send it through your WhatsApp. So if you could do that for us this evening while it is still hot, will be appreciative, and we are going to forward this to David and Eric. I want to do this in a different way. I would like to say thank you, but my thanks is going to be very, very brief. I'm going to do it in greater detail after this workshop. So once again, thank you, David, Eric, and Louisa, for being God's hands to us and helping us to work on our businesses in the last 2 days. I am sure you're going to hear some very good news coming out of this. That's basically the only way we could reward you for what you have done. But I also want to give an opportunity to at least 2 persons to give a vote of thanks. I know we have a balance of, well, not probably a balance, but we have male and a female, if you don't mind. Okay, so can we have a male and a female participant just bring a vote of thanks to David, Eric, and Louisa for this workshop? Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hi. Yes, I for one want to say thank you, especially for myself and also from the group. But I want to say thank you simply because the information given, it's practical, so I could actually take it and put it into work and into practice. So it wasn't just information for us to hear, but information that can be applied. So I for one want to say thanks, and I believe it was a well put out webinar, and thank you so very much for the training.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good to hear from you again.
Yes, looking forward to hearing, Jonathan, 3-6 months from now, how you put this into action.
Yes, no problem.
Bye, good night. Good night.
Hi, Melina.
So on behalf of myself and the other participants, I really just want to thank both Eric and Jonathan for all that they delivered to us today. In particular, we are going to work on bundling our products and services to see how best we can capitalize on those things and work towards being business owners rather than just having a job. That was like the cream, the cherry and the ice cream, the biggest takeaway for us to look forward to working towards. Thanks to all the nuggets, all the diagrams. I'm sure I'm not the only one who used their phone to take pictures of your slides. So we will be going back and implementing the things that you would have taught us over the past 2 days. So thanks so much for your time and even the extra, as you started off with your own example from your business. Thanks for the extras and not holding back on us. So we really appreciate it, and thank you, Salari, for hosting this event.
Thank you. Okay, and yes, we will also be sending a recording of the last 2 days to you all as well, just to keep you, to remind you of everything that was covered. And so you can always go back to the recording as you do your exercises. And I can see that I can see that David fully expects to hear some news about your action plans. Yes, so I will definitely be in touch with respect to that. Of course, I'll be on standby to help you navigate any challenges that you may have. So once again, I want to say thank you very much for attending this session. Please look out for additional sessions that we will be rolling out in the next few months or so. All right, so we'll be contacting you. So we wish you all the very best as you plan for your business, as you work on your business. I would also like to call on Luisa to bring a final word as we close.
Thank you so much, Ladi. On behalf of Partners Worldwide, we want to say thank you so much, Eric and David, for the time and resources that you have invested in all our partnerships. You're not only working with Trinidad and Tobago, but you are also working with Nicaragua and Uganda, I think. And I know that you guys invest a lot of time to prepare this presentation, and I know that that requires a lot of hours for you. And we want to say again, thank you so much for investing the time to be with us here today. Also, I want the participants, again, I want you to encourage you and motivate you to use your time wisely. The only thing that we cannot recover in our life is time. We can recover money, but we cannot recover time. So now that we have a crisis, you can either be sad and do nothing, or just work hard and reinvent yourself with the knowledge that David and Eric have provided to us today. So use your time wisely. If there are hours that you're not working because you don't have clients, if there are hours that you're not working because everything is closed, use those hours to work on the exercises and the templates that they have given us today. Please use your time wisely, as I said. And the last thing I want to mention is that Value Builder is one of the most strategic tools that I have seen so far. And you in Trinidad and Tobago, you have one expert, one certified person. So I know that Ladi will be able to reach out to you if you want to continue with the Value Builder process. She is certified, and I think it is something useful for your businesses. So thank you again. Thank you for the time you have invested today to be with us.
Thank you very much, Luisa and Eric and David. We still have thanks coming in from Stella. Thank you and God bless you, David and Eric. From Earl Brown, thank you, Luisa, David and Eric. From Madonna Doyle, tremendous experience. Thank you, David and Eric and Luisa.
So happy to be here. Thanks to everyone for making the experience. It's all of us making the experience. So wonderful to be part of this.
A very thought-provoking and informational webinar, Catherine. Thank you, Ladi, Luisa, David, and Eric, and all the support behind the scene in making this available to us. To everyone, happy action planning and pivot. See you all post-COVID with great purposeful businesses. Sorry, I had to put in that as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Enjoy your
Okay.
evening.
Enjoy your evening, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
God bless you.
everyone.
God bless everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Sister
you,
Ladi.
David. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Louisa.
And thank you, Sister Ladi.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy your weekend and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.